Last season, it was a year of transition in Lubbock because entering 2009, they knew they weren't going to have Graham Harrell anymore. Harrell had finally run out of eligibility. So it turned out to be a transition year in quarterback play, or should I say quarterbacks play, because both Taylor Potts and Stephen Sheffield saw a lot of PT, and of course, both come back this year. Despite the fact that Tech at times didn't look all that great, they did manage to pull together a pretty good season. 9-4 was their record, and they ended up winning the Alamo Bowl with an interim head coach in Ruffin McNeil, who's now the head coach at East Carolina. Of course, it was a year of transition on the field, but also it would turn out to be the same thing off the field with the Adam James, Mike Leach story. We're not going to get into the X's and O's of that particular soap opera, but of course, Mike Leach no longer there at Tech. Enter Tommy Tuberville, the former Auburn head coach. He worked with ESPN last year. Before that, of course, the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, led them to a lot of success throughout much of his coaching career there, including 2004, where they ended up running the table, won the SEC, went 14-0, and finished the year number 2 in the country. Unfortunately for Auburn, they didn't get a shot at the national championship because both Oklahoma and USC went unbeaten that year as well, ended up playing each other in the Orange Bowl, and Auburn finished second in the country, but left out of the national championship game, and left out of the national championship in general. Unfortunately for Tuberville, that's as good as it got, because the following years were good for Auburn, but not great. And then in 2008, his last year there, things went bad. They went 5-7, and this was about the time where Nick Saban and Alabama were getting really good players and got really, really good. They won the SEC West. Auburn went 5-7 that year, and 5-7 at Auburn usually means you're going to be out of there, and that's the case for Tuberville. So despite much of Tuberville's success throughout his coaching career at Auburn, it's the way it ended, and it was the emergence of Alabama that led to Tuberville's dismissal. So here he is now, the head coach of Texas Tech, and of course what a lot of people around college football, in particular these parts, want to know: how much will Tech's offense change now that Tuberville is at the helm? Of course, we know Texas Tech has been a pass-happy offense the last 10-15 years. Of course, throughout the entire Mike Leach era, which was the 2000s. The big offensive line splits, and of course throw short passes, see what the receivers can do. Yeah, they ran the ball a little bit, but it was predominantly a throwing offense. If you're looking at this year's offense, of course you're going to be looking at new offensive and defensive coordinators as well, not just a new head coach. Expect Texas Tech to implement more of the running game, and that's where Baron Batch, who I think is one of the top 5 running backs in the Big 12, could really have a big year. I thought he was good last year, could be even better this year. Batch last year was dangerous, both running the ball and catching the ball as well. So I would think that Batch is going to be more utilized this year than he was last year, because Tech is talking about running the ball more, but they're not going to neglect the pass as well. But do expect the Tech quarterback, whether it's Sheffield or Potts, which as of early August when we tape this show, has yet to be named as the starter for the Red Raiders, expect the quarterback to be a little more mobile. Tuberville wants to see the quarterback get out of the pocket a little bit more. And the good thing for Tuberville is that he's going to have a lot of skilled players back. We mentioned Sheffield, we mentioned Potts, but how about the receivers as well? Detron Lewis, he comes back as well. He's a senior. And you also have Alex Torres, who I thought did a good job last year, in particular in the Oklahoma game. And remember, last year, he was just a freshman. He's one of the few underclassmen who are key players on this Red Raider squad. As big of a transition as this year is for the Red Raiders, next year could be even more of a transition, because you're going to lose a ton of seniors off this team as far as the skilled players go. The offensive line, this is going to be a big emphasis for the Red Raiders, because, as I mentioned, I don't think you're going to be seeing those 2-3 foot splits, or however wide those splits were between guard, center, and tackle. There's going to be a change there as well. And from what I've heard about Texas Tech, they're wanting the offensive linemen to be in a little bit better shape. Tuberville has never been about the true bulky lineman. He wants the linemen to be in better shape, because the offense that Tech's going to be running it's going to be a little bit different because this offensive coordinator in Brown is going to want to run as many offensive plays as possible. That means the linemen for Tech are going to have to be probably a little bit slimmer to run this type of an offense. So it is going to be a new offense. You're going to see a little more running, but don't think that it's going to be student body east, student body west, student body left, student body right. You're still going to see the Red Raiders throw the football, but it's just not going to be in the same facet. Now, on the defensive side, there's some work to be done. Last year, Tech was one of the best teams in the country in getting to the quarterback. They had a lot of sacks. In fact, I think they had 41 last year. But unfortunately, about 70% of that production is gone, including a valuable piece of that D in Brandon Sharp, who's trying to now make it on the Dallas Cowboy roster. Good news for the Red Raiders, though. Colby Whitlock at defensive tackle returns. And this is a conference really known for defensive tackles. Adrian Taylor of Oklahoma, if healthy, I think he could have a good year. We know how good Jared Crick of Nebraska is, and Sam Acho of Texas. But Colby Whitlock, he deserves to be in the discussion with those players as well. Had a very good 2009, and he is the key part, I think, to that defensive line for the Red Raiders. 4 of their top 7 from last year are gone, but another player to talk about is Brian Duncan. Duncan, linebacker or defensive end, can play either one. I think he's more effective personally as an outside linebacker. He returns. This is going to be a Tech defense that will be fast, it will be quick, but the main thing is, can they be aggressive? Can they hit hard? And can they sustain tackles? That's going to be the big mystery of 2010 for the Red Raiders. Now let's go over some FYIs for Texas Tech. Number 1, the health of the quarterbacks, Sheffield and Potts. Injury riddled last year. They were injury riddled during the offseason as well. Potts with the hand, Sheffield with a broken foot. Now both players should be good to go for right now, but of course these have been reoccurring injuries for both. So the health of the QBs for Texas Tech obviously will determine just how far this team can go on offense, especially the passing game. Number 2, Texas Tech's offense and defense being able to adapt to change. Some teams can do it quite well. Some teams it takes a while. Some teams can never adapt to change, which is obviously their downfall. For Tech, they'll need to adapt to Tommy Tuberville's style and need to adapt pretty quick. It's not just on offense, but defense as well. They'll be going to a 3-4 scheme. And then number 3, being able to continue to get to the quarterback, which Tech did so well last year, but once again, you lost a lot of defensive studs. You do return some quickness, and you do return, like I said, Duncan and Whitlock. They'll need to be vital, and they'll need help for Tech to continue to ascend on defense. Looking at the 2010 schedule, and before I go over the games, just a reminder, if I have a W next to that team, that means I think Tech has a 70% chance, at least a 70% chance of winning that game. If I have an L next to that team, that means I think Tech has a 30% chance or lower of winning the game. And if there's those dotted marks you see, that's basically a game that's up for grabs. That means I give Tech anywhere from a 30 to a 70% chance of winning. It's kind of difficult to call either way if I've got those dotted marks next to it, just so you know. Looking at Tech's schedule, they play on a Sunday to open the season, the day before Labor Day, hosting SMU. And 6 days later, we'll play at New Mexico in Albuquerque. I have Tech winning both of those games. And then for the second straight year, the Red Raiders will play a Big 12 opener in the month of September, and again, it's against Texas. The Longhorns will come in highly ranked, or at least they should. And of course, remember what happened last time these two teams played in Lubbock. It was 2 years ago. Texas came in number 1, but came out with a defeat thanks to Michael Crabtree's touchdown in the final seconds in that thrilling game, probably the most thrilling game that stadium's ever seen. Anyway, the teams will play in Lubbock at Jones AT&T Stadium. This one I have either or, just because at that time Texas will still have some new personnel and Garrett Gilbert will still be trying to get a feel for the offense for the Longhorns. Texas will come in favorite, but they should not come in as a heavy favorite. And then a 2-week wait for the Red Raiders. They'll travel to Iowa State. The Cyclones, if you've looked at every single publication, has them picked to finish 6th out of 6 teams in the Big 12 North. Tech should be able to win in Ames. And last season, you might remember, the Red Raiders played Baylor in Arlington. This year, they're going to play them at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, and they'll play them in the middle of the season. I have this as a victory for Texas Tech as well. The following week, it's Oklahoma State coming to Lubbock to play the Red Raiders. This one in the either-or department. Oklahoma State should have a pretty good record entering this game. I give Tech probably a 60 to 65% chance to win this game, but I don't think either team's going to be ranked entering this matchup. At Colorado is the following week, and for some reason, Tech seems to struggle a little bit against the Buffaloes. They did in 2006, 2007, the last time they played this team, and Colorado won both times. It's going to be in high elevation at Folsom Field in Boulder. Tech will come in as a favorite, but not a huge favorite, so I go either or in this game. At Texas A&M last year, probably the toughest defeat that the Red Raiders had to handle, losing at home, giving up 52 points. They'll rematch at College Station this time. I've got A&M actually winning this game. The following week should be a lot of points as the Missouri Tigers and quarterback Blaine Gabbert visit Lubbock. I have this one as an either-or game. Tech will be the favorite, but I can't see them being a huge favorite. Missouri returns nearly everybody on both sides of the ball. And then November 13th, at Norman against the Sooners, and in this rivalry, for some reason, the home team seems to win. Oklahoma's the home team this time around, and they should still have that massive home winning streak. They haven't lost a home game since 2005. The Sooners aren't going to lose on this day either. Tech to lose this one. And then the last 2 games are non-conference games for the Red Raiders, as they will play Weber State. They get Weber State at home. They should win that one. And then November 27th, either or, as they'll rematch Houston, this game in Lubbock. And last year, of course, was the thrilling game in which Houston came from behind to win. Houston, by the way, playing in Conference USA and not having that difficult of a schedule, might be undefeated and looking for a BCS bid at this time. Tech could play spoiler. This one, either or. And finally, breaking down the best case, worst case scenarios for the Red Raiders. Worst case scenario is that they would go 4-8, although I cannot see that happening. 4-8 meaning that those 6 either-or games go into the loss column. That more than likely will not happen. It could go as well as 10-2 under this scenario, but that would mean that they would beat Houston, they would beat Texas, and they would end up finishing conference play with a record of 6-2. If you're a Red Raider fan, you'd take that in a heartbeat. 10-2 is the best case scenario. Most likely scenario I have for Texas Tech is that they go 8-4, end up going to a decent bowl game, and end up finishing in 4th place in the Big 12 South. It'll be a good year, but not a great year for Tommy Tuberville.